Hello, all of you beautiful divine souls and minds out there. Welcome to another video in A Letter to Self. Today, I want to speak on duality. I think I mentioned in my last video that duality happens to be one of my favorite universal laws. You might want to ask, what is a universal law? A universal law is more than a law, it's an energy, it's a vibration that helps us move through this third dimension. One of the universal laws that I want to talk about today is the universal law of duality. And again, it happens to be my favorite law because, for one, the universal law of duality, if we are vibrating it, always provides the promise of balance. It provides the balance of harmony if you're not caught on the end of a spectrum with duality, because duality within itself can actually be polarizing as well if we're not aware of how we're utilizing that vibration. It could be very polarizing and keeping us at opposite ends of the spectrum rather than allowing for what I know to be the balance of duality. We live in duality. We are, my gosh, engulfed in duality on a daily basis all the time, from morning till night, from day to night, from left to right, hot, cold, black, white. There's just duality constantly around us. And many times throughout the day, we can once again become polarized and stuck in a vibration, a negative vibration, because we are not seeing within ourselves or seeing within the world around us the ability to harmonize that vibration and bring us back into balance. Here in 2026, in the midst of this great awakening, what's really polarizing and really dualistic about the duality that we live in right now is, in this great awakening, there's a split in realities, if you will. There's one that's headed more towards a natural and an organic way of being, and there's another reality that's moving parallel to that reality that's about inorganics, if you will, if almost a fake nature of things. But both right here, right now, are coexisting, are parallel as they run through time, if you will. So just living in 2026 in the midst of this great awakening can be very, very polarizing in that you see a lot of the conflict through um, COVID. You see a lot of the conflict coming through, especially politics right now. On a day-to-day basis, you see the left and the right. And if you have an understanding of politics with and coming from the understanding of duality, you can recognize that left or right are actually both are two wings of the same bird, if you will, fighting with one another when we actually have the ability to take what we find good from the left or from the right. And that is what I have learned throughout the years, throughout the practice of understanding duality on a deeper level and actually applying what I've come to learn about duality really allows me to recognize within my given day how to find my balance, especially in a frustrated situation. When it comes to politics, for example, I don't recognize myself from the left or from the right. I'm more of an independent thinker, and so when it comes to politics, I find myself right in the center. And I think that duality has really given me the ability to have that balance so that I'm able to look from the left or look from the right, come from my center, and have the ability to live in a neutral space. And so if I go on the internet, for example, and you see uh, all of the chaos happening in the world, whether it's politics or something to do with politics, or whether it has to do with the immigration policies or whatever you might have, a lot of it really tends to look like it's completely chaotic. And it's really causing division between individuals, division between perspectives and state of minds because of the polarity that's involved with all that's happening in the world. Now, don't get me wrong, I can watch these situations happen online and lower my vibration, if you will, at any given time. But learning through the process of understanding duality, I'm able to hold myself in a neutral space, which kind of allows me to honor both realities, both vibration, because it allows me to be a bridge, if you will, between the dynamics of the inorganic and the organic, which actually allows me to hold a vibration for those that aren't yet waking up to what's unfolding in the midst of all this chaos at the same time. The Great Awakening, if you will. People coming to recognize themselves as souls and having the ability to connect with spirit on deeper and deeper levels, the ability to really connect with nature on deeper and deeper levels, whether it's homeopathic ways of understanding health or spiritual ways of understanding health. All of these are happening and beginning to create a really, really beautiful future for ourselves at the same time that all of this chaos and division is happening. And so, with me being able to hold my center through it all, it's really given me the opportunity to have purpose in this world and hold my vibration in a neutral place so that I have the ability to honor those that are going through the hardship that this world is going through right now and hold space for them in a higher vibration, if you will, knowing the future that's being created all at the same time. It really gives me the allowance to be a bridge, if you will. And I think that I've been practicing that bridge between metaphysics and Christianity for over a decade now, so that I have a space within myself to be able to hold the understandings of both. And so when it comes to duality and being able to find the balance in duality, really come to a center with whatever it is you're experiencing, you begin to realize that polarizing things such as yes and no, polarizing understandings, the big one, the one that comes with a tremendous amount of aggravation, is right and wrong. Who's right and who's wrong in any given situation. And I think that duality can bring a tremendous amount of negative vibration, a tremendous amount of misunderstanding, of misguidance, of division, if you will, amongst not only individuals with each other, but even within the self. It can cause a friction that does not need to be there. What I mean by that is if you understand duality and its promise of balance, and you hold your vibration in that center, you can begin to see things that at once looked like this is right and this is wrong, that to different levels and different degrees, one can be right and one can be wrong, if you will. In other words, it's a matter of perspective. When you hold a perspective on any given situation, you come to an understanding of it, a personal understanding of it, a personal perspective on it. I could see the color of the sky as light blue. Another person might see the color of the sky from their perspective and the sun at a different height within the sky as more of a darker blue, if you will. We could both be looking at the sky at the same time, but have different perspectives on the exact color of the sky, if you will. That's kind of like how duality works, or can work against you if you're not aware that right and wrong, yes and no, things that seem in opposition to each other, from the most part, from many places, come from a perspective, come from an opinion. And so I have been learning and practicing within the last couple of years to be able to hold a space where even within myself, I have the ability to have two completely different opposing perspectives and know that they can both be right. They can both come with clarity, even though they're opposing one another. Which again is why I have truly, truly recognized duality as a gift and a promise of balance and harmony. So throughout your day, if you find yourself in a situation where you caught at an end of a perspective where you see something as right or wrong, allow yourself, first off, to take a deep breath, recognize where you're coming from it, and through breath work and calming you down, see if you have the ability, even if it's slightly, allowing yourself to see the other perspective. Even if you don't agree with the perspective, put yourself in their shoes. Why do they disagree with you? Why do they think that they're right and you're wrong? From what perspective? How, in any slight way, can you find, oh, hey, they may have a point there. They may have a perspective, and even though you disagree, you can at least allow yourself to understand why they have a difference of opinion in any given situation. That takes practice, it takes presence, it takes courage because it allows you to, or you almost have to be vulnerable with yourself in order to allow yourself to see somebody else's opinion and giving yourself the ability to let go of right and let go of wrong, if you will. The reason why I wanted to bring up duality today is I was born and raised in California. And so I was born and bred to be city folk, if you will. I've been out here in Missouri for over 20 years now, and since have purchased property about an hour outside of the city, if you will. I just came back from going out there visiting my property, and last night we had a bonfire, and I'm sitting there just allowing myself to experience the fire. Um, and we had a beautiful breeze last night that we had. I began to just be present with myself and place my attention on the wind, feeling the wind because it was a beautiful evening, nice and cool with a nice breeze. And so I was just placing my attention on the breeze itself, listening, hearing the breeze rustle through the trees, and began to realize that I'm not really hearing wind. What I'm hearing is the trees and the wind rustling through the trees. And that's how my ears are able to actually hear the sound of the wind, if you will, and just allowing myself to absorb the experience that I was having. I had this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful understanding of duality coming in that when you think of wind can just flow with zero effort, and it can go in every which direction. It has this freedom, if you will, even greater freedom than a bird in flight has in that it's wind itself. So it has the ability to go anywhere and everywhere and be very fluid and go and wherever it wants to. And then I'm sitting there and I'm thinking of the trees. There's a duality between wind and a tree is really kind of cool in that a tree is grounded. A tree has a trunk. A tree stands where it is, if you will. A tree is grounded into the earth. It stays put. And so the duality of and the difference between the tree and the wind is just tremendous. And I thought that was just so cool that they have the ability to be themselves as well as the ability to allow the other to be itself. In other words, the wind has the ability to be the wind while allowing the tree to be the tree, and the tree has the ability to allow the wind to be the wind. And even though one has fluidity to it and one is grounded and stays put, the harmony that comes in nature between the wind and the trees is absolutely beautiful in that you get to hear the rustle of the leaves as the wind goes through the tree. And so they have this symbiotic relationship. Even though they're very dualistic in nature, they have the ability to coincide in such a way that they bring balance, that they bring harmony. They actually bring nature into being. In fact, if you want to find a real, true, deep understanding of the balance of duality, you can always find it in nature. And that's why I wanted to share duality today with you today, was because of that experience that I had last night, because it really gave me the ability when I was being present with my surroundings, which happened to be nature at that point, how brilliant and how beautiful harmony can be from one perspective, and from another perspective, be at complete opposites. But if we have the ability to just be present with ourselves and be present with the world around us, we have this innate sense within ourselves to come from a higher perspective, if you will, and really begin to see the balance in this world that right now, wow, from another perspective, can really, really look like chaos. Another thing, another understanding that I came to when I'm listening to the wind and I'm listening to the trees is I recognize that the only way I had the ability to experience the wind and the trees and the harmony within themselves with each other was because I was listening through my ears, which is part of this physical body. And so in that moment, I recognized my own balance with it all by having the ability to include the physical body, having understanding the gift of the physical body in this third dimension, although it can seem very chaotic, it also has the ability to recognize beauty through the senses as well. In this case, the sense of hearing or listening to the trees rustling in the wind. And so not only did it give me an appreciation for nature, but it gave me another deeper appreciation in that moment for my physical body and this third dimension, and the remembrance and the reminder that we are here in this world today to have purpose, to share our gifts, to share our talents, to have an understanding that this chaos has the ability, and it will come to pass, that this chaos creates a beautiful future for ourselves. Again, today, just with the understanding of sharing duality with you. Once again, thank you, and I truly appreciate you sitting and listening and taking out a little time with me throughout your day with a letter to self, because again, it always provides me the opportunity to go deeper with my understandings, to be able to expand in my own spiritual journey, knowing that there's you out there listening and taking maybe a little piece of what I have to say, and applying it to your life in such a way that it's beneficial and helpful to you. So thanks again for being with the letter to self, and we shall see you next time.